Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are deep in the forest. The sun has just disappeared behind the tree line. The temperature is dropping. You are miles from the nearest road. Miles from anyone who could hear you scream. Now imagine you hear something. A twig snapping behind you. You turn. Nothing. You keep walking. And another snap. Closer this time. You walk faster. Then you hear it. A whisper. Coming from the darkness between the trees. And it is saying your name. This isn't a movie trailer. This isn't a nightmare you can wake up from. This is real life. And for the 4 people you are about to meet, this was their reality. Ordinary people who ventured into the woods and came face to face with something they still can't explain. Something that followed them home. I've spent weeks researching these stories, verifying details, speaking to sources. What I found chilled me to the bone, because these aren't campfire tales. These are documented events. Police reports, hospital records, witness testimonies, and the scariest part. None of them have a satisfying ending. None of them are really over. If you are easily scared, maybe turn on the lights. Maybe check that your doors are locked. Because once you hear these stories, you'll never look at the forest the same way again. And neither will I. My name is Mubarak, and this is 4 very scary True Woods horror street stories. Story 1. The Hunted Ranger. My name is Michael Thornton. I worked as a forest ranger for 20 years in the Willamette National Forest in Oregon. I started when I was 25, fresh out of college, full of idealism about protecting nature and helping lost hikers. By the time I hit 40, I'd seen things that would break most people. Dead bodies, bear maulings, people who went into the woods and simply never came out. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened in October. I still live in Oregon, but I haven't been back to that forest since. I am telling this story now because I want people to understand. The woods aren't just trees and animals and pretty views. There are things out there we don't understand. Things that have been there longer than us. Things that watch. It was the 15th of October, around 4 p.m. I was at the ranger station doing paperwork when the call came in. A female hiker, late 20s, reported hearing a strange sound near Brush Creek Trail. I remember her voice clearly because she sounded genuinely terrified. Not the usual, I am lost and annoyed tone we got from inexperienced hikers. This was pure fear. She said it sounded like a child crying, but wrong somehow. Like someone trying to imitate a child's cry, but not quite getting it right. She told me, and I wrote this down verbatim because it stuck with me. It is not human crying, Michael. It is something else. It is something pretending to be human. I tried to reassure her, told her it was probably an injured animal. Coyotes can make some strange sounds. Bears' cubs too. She wasn't convinced. The trailhead. I told her I'd check it out and report back. Looking back, I should have just marked it as wildlife and moved on. But I was a good ranger. I took my job seriously. So I grabbed my gear and headed out. The trailhead was about 45 minutes from the station. By the time I parked and started hiking, it was pushing 5 p.m. October in Oregon means the sun sets early, especially in the mountains. I had my standard gear, headlamp, flashlight, radio, GPS, first aid kit, snacks, water, and my service pistol. I'd been in enough situations to know that being prepared meant the difference between life and death. The first 2 miles were uneventful. Just the usual forest sounds, wind through the pines, distant bird calls, the crunch of my boots on fallen leaves. I'd walked this area hundreds of times. I knew every ridge, every stream, every rock formation, or so I thought. Around 5:30, I reached the area the woman had described. It was, so I thought, dense pine with a thick understory of ferns and brush. A small ravine cut through the area, probably carved by spring runoff over thousands of years. Nothing. Then I heard it. The crying. It was exactly as she described. A child's cry, but wrong. The pitch would waver in ways that didn't sound natural. It would start and stop abruptly, and it was coming from the river. I called out, "Hello. This is Ranger Michael. If someone's down there, I can help." Just the crying continuing as if it hadn't heard me. I started making my way down into the ravine. It was steep, covered in loose rocks and wet leaves. I took my time, placing each foot carefully. The crying continued, always from the same spot, never getting closer or farther, no matter how far I descended. About halfway down, I froze, listened, nothing but wind. Then it started again. But this time it was behind me, above me. Back, where I turned around slowly, my hand moving to my pistol. The ravine wall behind me was empty. Just trees and rocks and shadows growing longer as the sun sank lower. I called out again, "Is someone playing games? This isn't funny. I am a federal officer." Silence. Then footsteps, not from the ravine, from the forest floor above. Multiple footsteps, walking in circles around the ravine's edge. I was getting out of that ravine. Now, climbing back up was harder than climbing down. The loose rocks kept sliding under my feet. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The footsteps above continued, never stopping, never speeding up, just circling. When I finally pulled myself over the edge, I was completely turned around. The sun had set while I was in the ravine, and darkness had swallowed the forest. My headlamp cut a narrow path through the black, but the footsteps had stopped. I stood there, breathing hard, trying to orient myself. My GPS showed I was about 2.5 miles from my truck. I could make that in an hour, maybe less if I pulled. That is when I saw the light. Through the trees, maybe 200 yards away, a faint orange glow, like a fire or a lantern, and not the flickering of a campfire. A steady, constant light. There were no campsites in this area. No permitted camping for at least 5 miles. And no one in their right mind would be out here after dark without a headlamp or flashlight. But the light was there. And against every instinct screaming at me to run back to my truck, I decided to check it out. Because that is what rangers do. We check things out. I started walking toward the light. It took about 10 minutes to reach it. The forest seemed to press in around me as I walked. The trees felt closer than they should be. The spaces between them narrower. More than once I had to squeeze through gaps that shouldn't have existed in this part of the... And then I saw it. A cabin, not a tent, not a lean-to. A full-sized log cabin with a stone chimney and a wooden door. Smoke rose from the chimney, catching the light from the single window. The window glowed with that steady orange light I'd seen from a distance. I'd been a ranger in this forest for 20 years. I knew every structure within 50 miles. Every cabin, every shed, every abandoned mining shack. This one didn't exist. It wasn't on any map. It wasn't in any record. And yet there it stood, solid and real and impossible. I approached slowly, my hand on my pistol. The door was slightly ajar. Through the gap, I could see movement. Shadows crossing the light, multiple shadows. I knocked. "Hello. This is the forest." The shadows stopped moving. Silence. I pushed the door open with my foot and aimed my light inside. The cabin was furnished. A table with 2 chairs. A wood-burning stove. Shelves with canned goods. A bed in the corner with blankets. Everything looked used, lived in, but recently abandoned. A half-empty cup sat on the table, still steaming, and covering every inch of the walls, photographs. Hundreds of photographs, maybe thousands, tacked to the logs, layered on top of each other, all of them showing people in the forest. Hunters, families, couples, solo travelers. Some were clearly taken from a distance, grainy, zoomed in shots of people on trails or at campsites. Others were close-ups, taken without the subject's knowledge, capturing them as they slept or ate or talked. Every single photograph had the subject's eyes blacked out with marker. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what I was seeing. This wasn't just some hermit's cabin. This was something else entirely. This was a record, a catalog. On the table, next to the steaming cup, lay a notebook. Its cover read, in careful handwriting, "The list." I didn't want to touch it. Every instinct told me to run, but I had to know. I opened it. The first page was dated 1987, a list of names, dates, and locations, all in the Willamette National Forest. Each name had a checkmark next to it. Some names had additional notations: completed, final, taken. I flipped through the pages, years of names, decades, hundreds of people. Some names I recognized, hikers who'd been reported missing over the years, cases that had never been solved, bodies that had never been found. And then I reached the most recent page, the 15th of September 2016, David Morrison, Brooks Range, Alaska, different location, but the same handwriting. Next to his name, in progress. The 10th of October 2018, Jennifer Walsh, Willamette National Forest, completed. The 12th of October, Mark Sullivan. The 15th of October 2018, Michael Thornton, Willamette National Forest, right here, right now, next to my name, written in fresh ink, in progress. Today was the 15th of October 2018. My name is Michael Thornton. And in that moment, I understood. I wasn't the ranger investigating a strange report. I was the subject. I was the one being watched. I was the one being collected. I dropped out the door into the darkness, away from that impossible cabin with its impossible photographs and impossible lists. I didn't care about direction. I didn't care about my truck. I just ran. Behind me, I heard the cabin door slam shut, then footsteps, many footsteps, emerging from the trees all around me. I crashed through the undergrowth, branches tearing at my face and arms. My headlamp bounced wildly, casting dancing shadows that made it impossible to see where I was going. The footsteps grew closer. I could hear them breathing now. Multiple breaths, multiple pursuers. I ran until my legs gave out, collapsed at the base of a massive old-growth pine. But they didn't. The forest went silent. No footsteps, no breathing, no wind, just absolute crushing silence. I stayed there for what felt like hours, too terrified to move. When I finally dared to turn on my headlamp, the beam showed nothing but trees. No cabin, no pursuers, just the forest, quiet and still and indifferent. I found my way back to the truck at dawn, drove straight to the hospital. Severe dehydration, hypothermia, multiple lacerations, and a dislocated shoulder from my fall into the ravine. I reported everything to the authorities. They sent a helicopter. They searched the area. They found nothing. No cabin, no photo. 3 months later, I resigned. I've never gone back to that forest. But here is the thing. I still have nightmares. And in those nightmares, I am always back in that cabin. The photographs on the walls have changed. Now they show me my house, my car, my family. And my eyes are always blacked out. Inside was a single photograph. It showed me standing at my front door, on the back in handwriting I'll never forget. In progress. We'll be in touch, Michael. The list is never complete. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they want. But I know one thing for certain. They're still watching. They're still waiting. And the list is story 2. The girl who disappeared twice. My name is Sarah Jenkins. I am 28 now. Live in Richmond, Virginia. Work as a graphic designer. Normal life. Normal job. Normal apartment. But nothing about my life has felt normal since October 2019. That is when my best friend Chloe disappeared. And then came back. And then disappeared again. Chloe and I had been friends since middle school. We did everything together. Prom, college applications, first apartments, bad relationships. She was the sister I never had. So when she suggested a camping trip to Shenandoah National Park in October 2019, I was all in. We were both experienced campers. We'd grown up outdoors, spent summers hiking. The woods were our happy place. We arrived at the park on the 13th of October. The plan was simple. 3 days, 2 nights, hike to the summit of Old Rag Mountain, camp at one of the backcountry sites, and be back home by the 16th. Chloe had even made a playlist for the drive. We sang along to old songs, talked about nothing important, and felt like the first day was perfect. Blue skies, crisp autumn air, the leaves just starting to turn. We made it to our campsite by late afternoon, set up the tent, gathered firewood, and cooked dinner over an open flame. That night, we stayed up late talking about everything and nothing. Chloe seemed happier than I'd seen her in months. She'd been going through a rough patch breakup with her boyfriend, stress at work, but out here, in the woods, she was her old self again. The second day, we decided to summit Old Rag. It is a strenuous hike, about 9 miles round trip with some rock scrambles. But we were both in good shape. We left camp around 8 a.m., planning to be back by late afternoon. The hike up was gorgeous. Views that went on forever, cool mountain air, the satisfaction. We reached the summit around 11, ate lunch, took 100 photos, and started down around noon. That is when things got strange. About halfway down, we reached a fork in the trail. One path was clearly marked with a sign, "Closed for maintenance. Do not enter." The other path had no sign at all. We'd taken the up, so the left path must be the way down. But Chloe stopped and stared at the closed trail. "What do you think is down there?" she asked. I laughed. "Probably maintenance." "Why? You want to check it out?" She didn't laugh. She kept staring. "I feel like I've been there before. Like I know that trail." I grabbed her arm. "Come on, weirdo. Let's go the right way." She followed, but she kept looking back. I didn't think much of it at the time. Chloe had always been a little spacey, a little prone to odd moods. It was part of her charm. We made it back to camp around 4 p.m., exhausted but happy. We ate dinner, watched the sunset. I was asleep by 9. I woke up around midnight to find Chloe's sleeping bag empty. At first, I wasn't worried. She'd probably just stepped out to pee. I called her name softly. No response. I called again, louder. I unzipped the tent and looked outside. The moon was bright enough to see the clearing around our campsite. Empty. I called her name again, this time shouting. Only the wind answered. I grabbed my headlamp and started searching. Checked the surrounding trees, the path to the creek, the edge of the clearing. Nothing. No sign of her. No footprints. No sounds. Just the forest, dark and... By 1 a.m. I was panicking. I pulled out my satellite phone. We'd rented one specifically for this trip and called park rangers. They said they'd send someone at first light. In the meantime, stay put. Keep trying to call her. Don't wander off. I didn't sleep that night. Saturday by the cold fire pit. Staring into the darkness. Calling Chloe's name until my voice went hoarse. At dawn, 2 rangers arrived. They took my statement, searched the area, and called in a K9 unit. By noon, they'd expanded the search to a 5-mile radius. By evening, they'd found nothing. I was sitting in the ranger station, filling out more paperwork, when my phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered. "Sarah." It was Chloe's voice, weak, distant, but unmistakable. "Chloe. Oh my God, where are you? Are you okay?" "I am in the woods. I don't know where. I am so cold, Sarah. I've been walking all night. I can't stay. They're still here. Who is watching, Chloe? Who?" A long pause. Then, in a whisper, "The ones who took me before." The line went dead. I screamed for the rangers, told them about the call. They traced it to a cell tower 7 miles away, deep in the backcountry. They found her at 10 p.m., wandering on an abandoned trail, disoriented and hypothermic, wearing only the clothes she'd had on when she left the tent. No jacket, no sleeping bag, no gear at all. Just Chloe, alone in the dark. I was at the ranger station when they brought her in. I'll never forget the look on her face, hollow-eyed, staring through me like I wasn't there. "Chloe," I whispered. She blinked. focused on my face, a flicker of recognition. Then she smiled, a small, sad smile, and said, "I came back. I don't know how, but I came back." The rangers wanted to take her to said she just wanted to go home. They drove us back to our car at the trailhead, and I drove us out of the park in silence. Chloe slept the whole way, curled up in the passenger seat like a child. Over the next few days, she seemed to recover. Her color returned. She ate normally. She even joked about the whole thing, called it her wilderness adventure, and laughed it off. But I noticed things. Small things. The way she'd stare out windows for hours. The way she'd flinch at sudden sounds. The way she'd sometimes look at me like I asked her what happened out there. She always changed the subject. A week after we got back, I went to her apartment to check on her. She wasn't there. I let myself in with the spare key. We'd had each other's keys for years. And an hour passed. 2 hours. I was about to leave when I noticed something on her bookshelf. A wooden box. Old. Carved. Clearly not something she'd bought at a store. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that now. But I had to know. Inside was a diary. The cover read, "My name is Chloe Mitchell. If anyone reads this diary, I am dead." My hands were shaking as I opened it. The handwriting was Chloe's. I'd seen it 1,000 times on birthday cards and notes and texts. But the dates were wrong. The first entry was dated the 15th of October. I read it cover to cover, 32 years of entries, all in Chloe's handwriting, all detailing the same thing: being trapped in the woods, being watched, being hunted, being told that someone would come to take her place, and only then would she be free. The last entry was dated the 15th of October, 2019. Today's date. It said, "She is here, the one who will take my place. Her name is Sarah. She's my best friend. I love her, but I have to go. They're calling me, and when I go, she'll understand. She'll have to. Because now it is her turn." I dropped the diary like it was on fire. At that moment, the front door opened. She looked at me, looked at the diary on the floor, and smiled that same sad smile. "You weren't supposed to find that," she said. "Chloe, what is this? What is happening?" She sat down across from me, took my hands in her. "I need you to listen, Sarah, and I need you to believe me, because I don't have much time." She told me everything, how in 1987, a 10-year-old girl named Chloe Mitchell had gone hiking with her family and gotten lost. How something in the woods had found her. How it had offered her a deal. She could go free, but someone else would have to take her place. Not immediately, someday. When the time was right, she'd accepted. Come home, grown up, lived her life. But always knowing that someday she'd have to go back. That someday the woods would call her home. "That day is today," she said. "When I disappeared on our camping trip, I wasn't lost. I was going back. I was saying goodbye. But then I saw you searching for me, crying for me, and I couldn't do it. I came back, but I can't stay. If I stay, they'll take you instead. And I won't let that happen. Chloe, no, we'll go to the police. We'll tell someone. There has to be another way." She shook her head. "There is no other way. There never was. Hoped I'd have more time. I hoped I'd get to say goodbye properly." She stood up, walked to the door. "Chloe, wait." She turned, smiled. For a moment she looked like the Chloe I'd always known, bright and warm and full of life. "I love you, Sarah. You are the best friend I ever had. Don't come looking for me. And whatever you do, don't go back to that forest." Then she walked out the door and disappeared into the night. I never saw her again. The police searched for weeks. They found nothing, no trace, no evidence, just a missing person report that would eventually be filed away with hundreds of others. I kept the diary. I've read it 100 times. The entries stop at the 15th of October, 2019. But sometimes, late at night, I swear I can hear Chloe's voice, whispering from somewhere far away, telling me she is okay, telling me not to worry. Last month, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed me standing in my living room, taken through my window. On the back, in Chloe's handwriting, "They're watching you now, said. They want to know if you are ready. I am trying to stop them, but I don't know how much longer I can hold them back. Be careful. I haven't slept well since. Every shadow seems deep. Every sound makes me jump. And every time I close my eyes, I see Chloe's face, pale and hollow-eyed, whispering words I can't quite hear. I don't know what is out there. I don't know what took my best friend, but I know one thing for certain. It is still.
Story 3, The Last Hike. My name is Jake Bennett. I am 24 now, live in Portland, Maine, work as a carpenter. I am telling this story because I need people to understand. The woods aren't safe. They never were. And if you go into them unprepared, if you go into them alone, you might not come back the same, if you come back at all. This happened 3 years ago when I was 21. My girlfriend at the time, Emma, and I decided to go on a backcountry camping trip in western Maine. We were both experienced hikers. We'd done dozens of trips together, from weekend overnights to week. Long expeditions. We knew how to read maps, use compasses, build shelters, find water. We were prepared for anything. We chose a trail in the mountains near the New Hampshire border, a remote area with few visitors and plenty of opportunities for solitude. The plan was simple. 3 days, 2 nights, hike to a scenic summit, camp at a backcountry.
The first day was perfect. Weather couldn't have been better. Clear skies, cool temperatures, light breeze. The trail was well maintained and easy to follow. We made it to our first campsite by early afternoon, set up the tent, gathered firewood, and spent the evening watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and pink. Emma took about 100 photos. I teased her about being a typical tourist. She laughed and took another one of me. That night, we sat by the fire and talked about everything. Our plans for the future, places we wanted to travel, whether we'd ever get married. It was one of those perfect moments you wish could last forever. The next morning, we decided to push for the summit. It was about 4 miles from our camp, with some steep sections, but nothing we couldn't handle. We packed light, just water, snacks, and emergency gear, and hit the trail around 8 a.m. The hike up was beautiful. The forest opened into alpine meadows, then into rocky terrain with views that went on forever. We reached the summit around 11. That is when we made our mistake. About halfway down, we reached a fork in the trail. One path was clearly marked with a sign, "Closed, danger, do not enter." The other path had no sign at all. We'd taken the right path on the way up, so the left path must be the way down. But Emma stopped and stared at the closed trail. "What do you think is down there?" she asked. I shrugged. "Probably a washed-out section, some rock slide. I feel like I've seen it before, in a dream or something." I laughed. "You and your dreams. Come on, let's go." She followed, but she kept looking back. I didn't think much of it. Emma had always been a little intuitive, a little sensitive to things I couldn't feel. It was one of the things I loved about her. We made it back to camp by late afternoon, exhausted but happy. We cooked dinner, watched another beautiful sunset, and crawled into the tent early. I was asleep by 9. I woke up around midnight. At first, I wasn't worried. She'd probably just stepped out to pee. I called her name softly, no response. I called again, louder. Nothing. I unzipped the tent and looked outside. The moon was bright enough to see the clearing around our campsite. Empty. I called her name again, this time shouting. Only the wind answered. I grabbed my headlamp and started searching. Checked the surrounding.